So we've seen logarithmic expansion in the number of cases that have been recorded as well as the number of deaths recorded. And again, we'll see that as we go through the individual graphs, and then I'll also show a cases graph at the end to show what that actually looks like. The coronavirus data on this graph was from March 16th, and the first one I'm going to show is from the following day, March 17th. Here's the first graph. So you'll see that the bottom yellow bar there is my new one added for January 24th up to the current date. At this point, it is going to be the March 17th date is the starting point for these daily graphs I'm going to show. And then up a little bit further, there's the yellow bar with 526, also from March 17th, but it shows from March 11th to March 17th the average deaths per day. And then the next one above that, the COVID-19 yellow one, is for March 17th only. And you'll see this for each day we go through. There'll be these 3 different bars, 1 day's worth, 1 week's worth, and the entire history that we have. You'll also notice that I've added a little bit of data on the graph in terms of some links to where the original graph data came from and then where I'm getting my data from, and some notations on what each one of the bars is. And that's about it. Now, if this had been an apples to apples comparison, this graph wouldn't have changed much as we move forward each day. But as you can see here, it has changed. So it's important to notice that as this grows, it makes a difference. Now you'll notice the middle bar moved from below norovirus to above it. Now you'll notice on this day that both the bottom yellow bar and the top one both moved up a spot on the placements. On this one, both the daily and the weekly average moved up the graph again. Once again, all 3 yellow bars grew this day. However, none of them jumped up any places on the graph compared to other diseases' deaths per day. On this day, all 3 grew, and the weekly one jumped up 1 spot on the comparison graph. On this day, all 3 of them jumped up in the rankings of deaths per day. Now you can see why I'm saying that the original graph was an apples to oranges comparison. And we haven't seen the peak yet of this virus, and certainly there's a concern that this is going to keep growing and we don't know where it's going to stop. And these averages are going to go up. They'll come down a little bit again on the downside, but it's pretty serious as we're looking at it now. Once again, all 3 grow. This time the daily one moves up a couple of spots. This time the bottom lifetime achievement bar moves up, as well as the middle weekly one. And on March 26th, both the daily and the weekly move up the rankings once again. Okay, we're going to switch channels slightly, and this is the case count over time. Right from the start, you can see that it's been accelerating exponentially. So we haven't slowed down yet. The curve is getting steeper all the time. So we're not out of the woods yet. We're nowhere near approaching the peak, because this should start to curl over in the other direction once we do. Now, even once this acceleration starts to slow down, it still means the number of cases are going up. On top of that, if we look at the lag between when you get in the hospital or diagnosed and then in the hospital into ICU, there's about a 10-day lag between being diagnosed and ending up in the hospital. So the death rate is following at least on a 10-day lag, probably longer than that. Bottom line, people, please be careful out there. Thanks for spending the time to look at this. Please be careful out there, and let's try and smooth the curve.